And we're live, and we're back. No.
Hi, back.
But I'm just really like, I can't wipe the grin off my face. You're just gonna have to
be sitting here like this.
Right. Because we really had such a great experience in Atlanta, and I keep thinking about it.
Same. And just watching you reach this when it was a dream in a car months ago is like really inspiring to me. Seriously, it makes me emotional. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
you. I'm so proud of you too.
Thank you.
I'm always looking at what you're doing all the time, and I'm like, you just really went and got it.
You too. We sat in our car depressed as hell. It was like, we need to go get our shit, girl.
We said, what are we gonna do?
We did.
Okay, so I have a question to just like ramp things up, to start things off. And I want to know, like, have you ever, because I feel like I've definitely done this, unconsciously especially, but have you ever felt like you've like assimilated to somebody else's idea of what your dream should be? Like, you know what your dream is. Somebody else might think they know what your dream is. Not saying that they're steering you to another dream, but the question is like, there's a whole bunch of different pathways to get to a certain destination. So it's not like one way fits all.
Yeah.
But have you ever felt like the pressure to like fit into somebody else's way instead of like the way you felt pulled naturally or gravitated towards?
We're obviously going to talk about this a lot, but I think what really shifted thinking about that for me was transitioning, obviously. I feel like up until I transitioned, like, obviously I was chasing what I thought were my dreams, but they were dreams truly from the perspective of what I thought I was supposed to be doing and the person I thought I was supposed to be. So, like, in transitioning, it really opened me up to, like, figure out pathways that were seemingly unconventional, but it also forced me to trust that whatever path I walk down, it's going to lead me to my destination, even if it's not as clear as it used to be, which is so fucking scary. But it's really necessary to kind of like just trust that in choosing to be all of who you are, that is the thing that leads you to the destination more than trying to do what you think you're supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah, so I have, like, it's been really scary in that way to like work in a very specific way towards something and then abandon that, but still have the trust that you're going to end up where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Girl.
Woo. I already got me like, wow. No, I already know. Woo. I think it's important to talk about dreams, to talk about aspirations, because they are malleable. They change. They often.
And nobody tells you that, I feel like. I feel like when we're young, it's so like, find your dream and pursue that wholeheartedly. But nobody's ever like, it's going to shift. It's going to change over time. As you grow, it's going to grow. And I wish I would have either listened to that more if it was being said to me or like just heard that more.
Right. I was about to say, at this point, I can't remember.
You know what I mean? Like, I can't remember.
I can't remember that.
But if it was definitely something that I did not like internalize in my youth that I'm trying to internalize now. Because when you were young, girl, we got so much time, which means there's so many more dreams that we're going to like actualize and realize. That's crazy.
That is crazy. And I was just like, there are a lot of dreams that I had that are like similar, but then I realized like I step into it, I try it out. This is what people don't really talk about too sometimes. It's just like, you can step into something you said that you wanted to do like wholeheartedly and then be like, wait a second, I don't like this.
Exactly.
Like, and be like, and then change your perspective fully and then express that perspective. But sometimes when that's happened to me, I felt people being like, oh my goodness, you can't make up your mind. You're this, you're that. I'm like, no, but the reason that I was saying I wanted to do XYZ before is because I live in a society, I live in a world, I live in an environment where people tell me that I have to pick XYZ before I even know what XYZ entails at all. Anyway, so it's just
and to be young and black and not wealthy, it's like the only way out, I feel like we're taught, is to find that one thing and stick to it. Like, we're not taught to change your mind and to like let things shift and change. Like, a lot of where I'm at in my life right now, like, me 5 years ago would be gagged. And not necessarily in a good way. And I think that brings me a lot of joy because it just speaks to the fact that regardless of whatever her fears or like insecurities have come up, I've decided to trust that I'm being led to where I'm supposed to be. Even if it is like in conflict with what I thought that was 4, 5, 6 years ago.
Period. Well, on that note, hello and welcome to 232425, a podcast about being slapped in the face by not only 2023, but the wildly complicated transition that is turning 25.
I hate it.
Literally, me too. I'm your host, Josca, and I've invited my friends here with me to talk about life as baby adults. And today I'm joined by Mariyea. Such a dear friend, such a great journey we've had together. Mariyea is an artist, a performer, storyteller, just all around wonderful. I can't say enough good things, but today we're here to talk about dreams, goals, aspirations.
Imagination.
And I'm so excited. But first, we're going to start off with a little top 5, like riffing on MySpace top 8, as Mariyea already knows because I told you before.
I love her.
Yes. So you're just going to give us a little list of 5 things that influenced your growth, your childhood, however you want to look at it. It could be people, fictional characters, books, just anything.
Her top 5. Okay. No particular order except for the first one, Beyonce. We love you, girl. I think I'll go back after I list them, but it's Beyonce, it's Whitney Houston, it's T.S. Madison, Marsha P. Johnson, and then the shocker, Spongebob.
Whoa!
We'll be talking a lot about Spongebob.
Can we start with Spongebob?
We sure can.
I love this.
When I think about like characters that aren't people that have inspired me the most consistently in my life, it's SpongeBob. I think about SpongeBob all the time because, I mean, obviously SpongeBob has an age, but in my mind, SpongeBob is like the quintessential representation of like that transition from 24 to 25. And the older I get, the more I'm like, obviously this is a kid's show, but like a lot of what SpongeBob goes through, I feel like are things I'm going through right now that I didn't understand at like 7, 8, 9, 10.
That makes a lot of sense.
That I'm now getting at like 25. So I just think about that. Also, that show is just one of the ones that brings me the most joy very consistently. It always has. It's my, like, when I'm down and out, go watch some SpongeBob, girl. And just remind yourself of some things.
SpongeBob is a cancer.
I know. My water baby is water sign supremacy. Love SpongeBob, always have. And then Beyonce, obviously, when I think about the essence of my performance from a non-theater perspective, she's always been the artist. Her and Whitney Houston actually have been the two that I really try and like, obviously not mimic, but pull a lot of their style and transmute it into whatever my style is. Beyonce's work ethic, obviously, is the thing that has motivated me the most. Like, that Virgo is going to get what she wants. And I find that so inspiring. And then you look at Whitney Houston, who I think is also a lovely example of pathways that aren't the most conventional per se. And yet it did not negate or stop her success through whatever struggle she was going through whatever trauma she had to realize. Like, at the end of the day, everybody loves Whitney Houston for the artist and the person that she was, and if you don't, you're lying.
Her.
T.S. Madison, obviously. Love her.
Yes.
Down. And I forgot the other one I said. Oh, Marsha P. Johnson, but that goes without explanation. Come on now, pay no mind.
I love that. Talk about Marsha P. Johnson a little bit for our people who should have known.
Marsha P. Johnson, Marsha Pay It No Mind Johnson. She was my first understanding that even in being a trans woman in a trans film, like, I can do that from a perspective of people not having to worry about my gender and what that journey actually means for me. So I think I look to her often, obviously in her work as a trans person and trying to create space for trans people. I look at her activism always, but what I look at most from her is her personal liberation of self, of gender, of sexuality. Her work on a global scale is without question, but her work personally and specific to her personal life, I think, is what inspires me the most. So if you don't know her, she's a trans rights activist. advocate. She is no longer with us, which I find ghetto, but conversation for a different day. However, her legacy definitely lives on. When I think about Marsha P. Johnson, I think about the people that we have now that carry that essence. I think about Queen Jean. I think about Jordan J. I think about Julie J. I think about Dev Doe. I think about all of these trans people who are really taking time to like create a world where we can flourish, not just exist. And I think that's really important. It's one thing to give space for trans people to exist, but it's another thing to give room for us to flourish in this world. So thank you, Marsha, and thank you to the icons I just mentioned who are carrying that legacy forward.
Thank you, Marsha. Period on thank you, Marsha.
Down. And then T.S. Madison, like, who also in a very specific way, like, does a lot of that work, obviously from a different perspective, but her making herself visible in the ways that she has is literally why my career gets to flourish in the way that it is now, because she was one, not, obviously I'm never going to say one of the first trans people have been around forever, but when we really look at modern history, like T.S. Madison is a really big example to me of our understanding of representation and what it just means to have trans people in media, and watching her career shift over time. Oh, it's so inspiring to me. Like, she's getting all the things she deserves. And when we were working on the project that she was a part of, excuse me, you see the excitement coming up? Yeah, that was literally me on set, because I could not contain what it meant for me to be in the presence of someone who's made so much space for me to be able to do what I do. So I cherish that very deeply. If you're watching T.S. Madison, hey girl, what's up? I can't wait to see you again.
I'm gonna send this to T.S. Madison because...
No, you should. She should be in this chair too. I think she would love it.
I would love to do something with T.S. Madison. She's very much created. She's created rooms.
Yes.
And I love that. I love how people... I love when people take over rooms and just like kind of like change the narrative and the landscape of that room. But I also noticed that she was like, oh, I'm going to create this. Oh, it's so, you know, it's hard being the first one to do something a lot of the times, but it's just like, yeah, you have to.
Exactly.
Like sometimes you're like, okay, I have this idea, or I have this passion, or I have this confidence about it, and I know I have to do it. So it's kind of non-negotiable.
It is. And she's such a, like, I'm about my business in a very non-negotiable way. And I find that so inspiring. Like, I feel like often being a trans person, it's very easy to get caught up in what the world does not give you space for. And what inspires me about people like T.S. Madison is it feels as though that is of no regard to her.
Yeah.
And that's so inspiring.
Love her.
We love you, girl.
Sorry about that. We had a little technical snafu. We'll be back right after this. All right, so we're going to start now with some questions, and I'm very excited to be in conversation about dreams. My first question is, what role has self-discovery played in your journey to realizing your dream? Which you kind of talked about a little bit already, but we can get more into it. How have you had to adapt or redefine your dream based on personal growth and changing priorities?
Yes. I love this question a lot because every time I talk about the shifts that have occurred in me, it reminds me that there's a lot of life to live. And I think it's really important to always remain flexible in the living of it. So obviously, being 18 years old, growing up in Ohio, knowing that I was coming to New York, it was very easy to be like, this is the one thing I want to do. I want to go get my theater degree. I'm going to be on Broadway. Then I'm going to be in movies, and that's it. And there's a world where life can be that simple, right? And for the people that it is, I love it for you. I think a lot of those dreams, while they were mine, they were also mine for other people. Dreams that were built around wanting to get my family out of certain situations, wanting to be something for a community of people that I felt like I didn't have for myself. And if you're hearing these things, it was a lot of dreams for people that weren't me. And I think in transitioning, I talk about me transitioning all the time because I feel like it was the first act in my life that was very specifically for me without any consideration, thought of anybody else outside of myself. And that was a very scary thing to do because it shifted my entire world, including my dreams. So In that way, I think transitioning, taught me that my current dream as it stands right now is to just live a life that makes me happy, right? I was a person who attributed a lot of my dreams to accomplishments. Mm-hmm. And I think transitioning really taught me to attribute my dreams to living. And enjoying this experience that we have. And that's not to say that the accomplishments won't help affirm that, but it is to say that my dreams aren't dependent upon the things that I accomplish. They're dependent upon me enjoying my life. So graduating and doing the whole theater thing and really being able to work in very big environments was really like special, and I'm forever very grateful for that. What I'm more grateful for is recognizing that a lot of that I did not enjoy when I first got out of college and started doing it. And that was a hard pill to swallow. Yeah. Of like this thing that you spent so much of your life up to that point. That is a very hard pill to swallow. You know, like really working for that thing, and then you get it, or at least a taste of it, and you're like, this is not quite what I wanted. And I think that really freed me up to be able to say, you're young and you have time, so do the things that in this moment you want to do, and trust that that is going to lead you to whatever larger overarching goals that you have. Obviously, I still want my Oscars and Emmys and Grammys and Tonys, but in that pursuit, right, I think it's less about focusing only on that and opening up myself to be able to enjoy the ride along the way. And transitioning taught me that. It taught me to be open to the pursuit of your dreams being flexible and not rigid. Yeah. That's so scary because I love certainty. I love defined rules and boundaries. I love a step 1 to 2 to 3. I love linear. And none of that is life. You know what I mean? Life is very cyclical. Success is not this way. Yeah. So transitioning just really opened me up to let go of a very strict, rigid structure. And then it also opened me up to trust that whatever I'm interested in that moment will lead me to the next thing. Oh, that's one of my favorite things. It's so scary. It's so scary, but it's true. Like, I think a lot about me doing nightlife. And when I was 18, 19, I had such a skewed perspective on... I think about my 18-year-old self meeting me now and knowing the things that I do, and they would be gagged, not in a good way. But they wouldn't, because I think a lot of my 18-year-old self would be like, you failed yourself, or the things that you were working towards are not the things that you're doing. But what 18-year-old me did not realize is, like, those things are also leading me places. A lot of what I accomplished this year, I thought would come by way of theater. It came by way of nightlife and drag. Crazy to me. Like, that's so insane. But again, it speaks to everything we were saying. The moment is leading me to wherever I'm supposed to be next. Yeah, and that's beautiful because it's another thing that you kind of create for yourself. When you open up doors for yourself, people also can walk through. Exactly. Not only you walking through it, but yes, that's inevitably what's going to happen. But people are also able to, like, consume you and just craft things around you and craft things with you. And I like that. Like, I talk a lot about trusting myself because that seems to be the through line in terms of what I'm learning, especially this past year. Especially at this age, right? I feel like this age is the transition of you learning how to trust yourself very seriously. Yeah, because if you're interested in something, it's just kind of like follow these instincts and see where they lead. Yeah. Because when you get to a point where you realize you don't want to do something or you don't enjoy something, that's valuable information as well. I completely agree. I completely agree. That's very because valuable. You're learning about yourself, and learning about yourself doesn't always mean like I accomplished this thing, go me. Learning about yourself is also like I failed at this thing that I thought I wanted to do, go me. Right. And I'm trying to remember how to put the go me on the parts of my life where I feel like they're not in alignment per se with my vision or my plan. Right. Go me. I'm going to start saying that. I woke up this morning, go me. I tripped down the stairs, go me. Like, down. I survived those horrid cramps yesterday. And today, go me. We were just talking about that, like, go me. Okay. Seriously. We're going to shift the conversation a little bit into speaking, like, kind of going off of just that, on the negative, I guess not the negative side, but not everything is going to be, yay, I got this, you know, exactly. I booked this, I figured this out in a good way.
sometimes when you're getting there, though, you go through challenges or you face certain things where it's just like, oh, there are certain things I have to shed in order for this to work, even if you're just following your instincts. So I have a question about that.
Yeah.
And my question is, in following your dreams, have you had to make sacrifices? Have you had to make those type of sacrifices that are difficult? And how did you cope with having to make those sacrifices? And what kind of changes and what kind of losses did you endure?
That is a lovely question. That has also transitioned a lot for me, this idea of sacrifice. I think more in my youth, I attributed sacrifice to discipline. Like, discipline necessitates sacrifice. And I don't agree with that anymore. And I say that to say, like, there were parts of me in my youth that I was like, okay, you can't do this thing because you have rehearsal. You can't go here because you have. And obviously that will always be an aspect of being an artist and just being a human and knowing that there's some things you can't do in order to be able to do the things that you want to do. But sacrifice to me now is less about discipline and more about this idea of trust. Like, sacrifice to me is trust. It's trusting yourself to know what you need to get you where you want to be and what you don't need to get you to where you want to be. The issue that I have is that that's a learning curve. And I want that to be knowledge that I just innately have in my brain.
Yeah, you sound like me.
Having to experience it, right? Yeah. And I think that is what tears me up all the time, is like, if I'm choosing to live my life as sacrifice being, what did I just say? If I'm living my life from a place of sacrifice, not being disciplined, then what you really have to open yourself up to is, like, you have to trust yourself. And I think that's the scary thing. Like, sacrifice is discipline. I could trust that much easier because it's like, okay, if I do the work and I discipline myself, I'm going to get the reward. Versus if I trust that I know what I need and what I don't need, I will also get the reward. Mm-hmm. And it's not about working in a way that inspires, like, the win. It's really about trust. So I think a lot of sacrifices that I'm thinking about now is, like, trusting yourself in the face of people who may not be excited for the things that you're doing, for the growth that you're experiencing. Obviously, transitioning, you really have to learn how to let go of people's perceptions, of people's expectations. And I think that's the sacrifice that I'm thinking a lot about right now, of, like, I spent a lot of my life wanting to affirm what people expected of me, wanting to affirm the person they thought I was. Yeah. And I'm sacrificing a lot of that by way of trusting that I know who I am. I know what I want. And if I can continue to make that my central focus, then the people in my life that are meant to be in my life will come. The things that I'm meant to accomplish will be accomplished much easier and with much more realness than if I continue down this path of holding myself back from things because I feel like I'm supposed to, because somebody has this expectation of me.
Yeah. Woo.
Nightlife is a perfect example of that. Like, when I started nightlife, there were a lot of people in my life that were like, girl, what? And that was really, like, having to sacrifice, knowing that I was disappointing people. That was so hard. But it also taught me how much.
And it makes me mad that that's hard. You know what I mean?
I agree, because I think what it shows you is how much of your life you build around other people.
Yeah.
And I think what was really...
And around expectations
that aren't yours.
Yeah.
And I think what was really hard about that is having to eat that and accept that. That I was a person who built a lot of my life up until that point around others' expectations and perceptions. So sacrificing that, Josca, was so scary. Yeah. Because it shifted my entire worldview. And I'm still going through that process. But yeah, the sacrifice in my life now is sacrificing living for other people. Mm. It's terrifying.
Sacrifice. It's so interesting that you connected, like, sacrifice with discipline, because similarly, a lot of the times I connect sacrifice with, like, my integrity. And I'm just like, yeah. Because sometimes, you know, I'm just like, I'm like, my girl Dreamer, Isioma. I'm like, I'll never sell out for a check. I'm
Yes. No, I feel that.
Some of these things, like, ooh, I be driving sometimes. This is so funny to me. I be driving sometimes listening to that song. I'm like, ooh, I can't wait till somebody offers me a check that I can decline. Like, I can't wait till.
But
like...
yes, and that's very in line with like you trusting yourself and like trusting that you know what you need and what you don't need.
Yeah.
So sometimes that $1 million check, though, right now, child, I don't think there's a single $1 million check I would say no to. But it also means when that thing comes on the table, having enough trust within yourself to know that, sure, this thing can change my life in a way that will benefit me, but is it also meant for me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because when the $1 million check comes that's meant for me, it's in my pocket.
Okay. The challenge now is to not make any check that approaches me meant for me, because I will trick my brain to be like, no, Diva,
how does this work? How would this work?
Meanwhile, they're like, no, you need to sell me your soul for $1 million. And I'm like, that's actually not that bad, girl, when you think about it in the long run. No.
I've sold worse. I mean,
I have. I haven't. Don't.
Right. But yeah, it's so funny because I've had conversations with friends about morals, about integrities, about should I keep going through this experience if it is going against my integrity? Like what about this? What about this? What about this? And I'm just sitting here like, this is life. We all have to choose our own battles, first of all. Like, I feel like it's not always a bad thing to stick with an experience if like something feels off. Ooh, I'm not of the opinion that it's
about that, Josca.
Right. I'm not of the opinion that you should just jump ship everything because only because like I think about institutionalized things, right? Like schools, just going to like college. There's a lot of things wrong in the structure of a lot of schools. Just like our education system in this country. So imagine me just like, okay, I'm just going to completely jump ship, even though people do that and that's their prerogative. And there's also nothing wrong with that. That's not what I'm saying. But I think it's a personal decision, and you just have to follow those instincts. That's what it comes all back down to.
And much to your point, me with nightlife, for example, I think is a perfect example of this, because since I've started, Josca, we've talked about this off tape. How many times would it be like, I'm done, I'm quitting.
Yeah.
I'm just jumping the ship. And I think in hindsight, I am really proud of me working through the uncomfortableness of it all and working through the moments where I felt like it wasn't for me, or I was making the wrong decision, or I was pursuing something that I wasn't meant to. Because through all of that, it has led me to so many beautiful things that I would not have experienced or would have experienced differently if it wasn't for nightlife and the work that I do there. So I think about that often, and I think I'm going to carry this period of nightlife with me for the rest of my life, in the sense of work through the discomfort. And sometimes working through the discomfort does mean leaving the thing, right? But to do it in a way where you're not abandoning it, you're actually working through it before you just throw it away.
Yeah.
I think is really important. And so now whenever I settle my nightlife career, whenever that may come, I think I'll be much more settled about it, because I didn't just toss it out. Like, I took time to like really sit in the fullness of the experience of it, and not just soaking up the parts that felt good.
Yeah. Wow, yeah. And I feel like me and Dante also talk about a lot, not leaving something because you hate it, or, like when people say, don't go to bed mad, it kind of feels like that type of vibe. Like, don't go to bed mad at each other. Exactly. It's kind of like, don't put this to rest with all this icky stuff around it.
Exactly.
Like, kind of go through it and talk about what you were grateful for, or what you are grateful for, or how you were inspired and how you were motivated and how your growth developed through it. So, yeah.
I think that's a big thing, learning how to close cycles and end things with peace. I've been thinking a lot about that. Because I'm a person, maybe it's my water sign energy, who will just cut it off and not ask questions. But then you have so much unsettled, unresolved energy around things when you do that. And sometimes it's very necessary, as you said, and I fully agree. But the more that you can really just take time to settle your relationship to something before it ends, I feel like that should always be the goal. Because then you leave or rest something with peace in your spirit, versus leaving it with like a comma at the end of the sentence.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I want to ask you this next question that Honestly, it comes up a lot. It comes up when I ain't even asked this question to people. I'm like, I feel like, my goodness, we've talked about this in a lot of the episodes, but I love it because everybody has such a different perspective of the question. And my question is basically, what does success mean to you in the context of following your dream? And how do you measure your progress and your accomplishments along the way? Because sometimes I feel like some things get unnecessary in terms of like trying to plug in, like what have I achieved on all these little pit stop points. Sometimes it gets a little overwhelming and a little bit like, okay, maybe I should make this a little bit more broader for my own personal mental health sake.
Exactly.
And also sometimes I think on the necessary side, we have to have our own definition of success to be able to keep going past it, like keep reassessing and keep being able to like reach something new each time. So
this is a lovely question. This is the theme of my life right now. For our viewers who are over the age of 25, please feel free to reach out to me with your advice.
Yes.
Smart. Okay. But in relationship to this question, I have historically been a person who attributed success to accomplishments, who attributed success to achievements and just the big ticket things of like graduating or a dream coming true or getting cast in a huge project. And through all of that, like we were talking about earlier, a lot of those accomplishments didn't come with the experience of joy, of gratitude, of like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that I finally got to cross off this big thing on my list. So it really started making me question, like, what are you actually in pursuit of? Because if you're getting the things that you, in theory, wanted, but you're still not happy, something's not aligned.
Yeah.
And I think now, in this very scary world that we live in, like, success to me is starting to mean living a life that you are proud of and happy to live. And that's not going to always be the case. We're human. Everybody's going to experience the full range of emotions. But at the end of the day, if I can go home and look in the mirror and enjoy myself, my life, and what I'm doing, that's success. Because nothing else is promised in that way. And it's hard to transition. Like, I'm not saying that as in I figured it out, I got it, we're here. I am saying that to say that is ultimately what I'm in pursuit of now. Like, transitioning my idea of success to being content with the life that I'm living. And I think that comes from me just growing up around a lot of people who were discontent, and I attributed that discontent to lack of resources, to lack of accomplishments, to lack of achieving whatever goals that you wanted. But I think I'm now looking at it as, the most successful thing I can do in this world is be happy. Especially in this world that we live in now.
Right. For us peoples?
Exactly. For us peoples, okay?
For us peoples, it's revolutionary.
It is.
You're like happy.
Literally. And being able to be honest with yourself about what actually makes you happy versus what you think makes you happy is also really important.
Woo! That's another journey that I'm going through right now, listeners, audience.
Okay, and that's a big place I'm in right now, where it's like a lot of things that I think make me happy are just habitual patterns that I'm comfortable in, not necessarily happiness. I think I attribute comfort to happiness a lot. And that's also not always
comfort, familiarity.
Exactly. It's not always happy. It's just comfortable. So as much as I can like wake up and enjoy the life that I'm living, that's success to me. Me and my therapist have been talking a lot about. I think I've spent a lot of my life trying to reach this place of like arriving. Like I've arrived. Like here I am in the moment. Rather than recognizing that I have already arrived. I'm not in pursuit of arriving. And that is where I'm trying to process my life from now in relationship to success. It's like, if I can be real with myself and be like, babe, you've arrived, then I can start to shift, like, the fact that I'm already successful now. versus me trying to be in pursuit of what I think me being successful will look like. Because then I'm negating the success that is before me in this present moment.
Yeah.
And I think I've learned that if I'm always in pursuit of success, then I'll never be successful because I'm not acknowledging the success that I have presently.
Ooh, that reminds me of a conversation I had recently with my uncle. And I told him why I was really pulled to start doing these personal projects that I really, really was excited about doing. And I told him I was looking in my journal. I was just about to write in my journal, and I happened to flip to a page, like an earlier page that was like almost a year prior to the day that I was trying to write in my journal. And I told him that I was reading the entry, and I was so, like, beaten down. I was like, it was very dramatic, but I was so beaten down because I felt like reading that journal page, it was a lot similar to how I felt that very day. Like, I'm just like, this was a year ago, though. And I was getting too hard on myself about reading those words and thinking of it in the context of today. And literally at the end of that journal page, I literally said, I wonder where I'll be in a year from today. Like, I know it's going to be so great and so, like, you know, that mystical, those dreams. Like, I had a, like, vision of what I wanted and, like, what I could probably achieve in the course of 365 days. I mean, we do that a lot. Like,
absolutely.
Where am I going to be a year from today type of thing. But when I was telling my uncle about this on the phone, he was just like, but you're missing a lot of context about what happened and, like, where you were at the time. Like, you can't let that get you down because you have so much more, like, underbelly now and so much more knowledge of experiential things. Like, you grew, you, like, experienced so many lessons. You learned from all this stuff. And that the you who was feeling depressed back then is not the you. Even if you're depressed right now, it's not the you who's feeling depressed today. You still have a lot of wins that you did not have a year. I said, I didn't even think about it like that. I'm not even going to hold you. So
I've been thinking about a lot, like, I've been taking time to sit down with Mariyea and be like, what have you accomplished up to this point? And then when you run that list back, and I guarantee it does not matter who you are, everybody has a long list of accomplishments wherever you are in your life. And I think when you really start to realize that, it just shifts so much. Like, to run the gambit of the things that I've accomplished in 25 years and to think about that in relationship to, and this is not to position me in any kind of way to people, but to just remind myself that, like, there are people who won't touch a quarter of that in their lifetime. And that's not shade, but it is, like, reminding me about the perspective of recognizing that if I cannot affirm myself in these moments, it will be an endless cycle of trying to find whatever the thing is that will affirm me.
Yeah.
So I looked at that list and I was like, girl, if you don't do shit else for the rest of your life, you are accomplished, you have arrived, you are successful. And that has to start to become enough in this moment or nothing ever will be.
It's about time for me to make one of those lists again.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
And to post it up, like, I don't have it up, but I should put it up in my wall or in my room. Just to remind myself, like, even in those moments that you feel like, oh, what am I doing with my life? I haven't done anything. It's like, in the world we live in today, to wake up and get through the day is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to learn how to let that be enough for me.
Me too.
Yeah.
This is very 25, I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And Dante knows I have the same, like, feelings a lot of the time. Because sometimes I'll be like, am I lazy? Like, what is what is there to love about me? Or what is there to like about me right now?
Stop calling me out. But am I lazy? I ask myself that question every
I wake up in the middle of the
day.
night. I just been shameless all day. Well, that's because I couldn't nearly move because of the cramps.
Exactly.
But I could have been, like, on my computer with one eye open, like, still doing something.
Meanwhile, every day, me and you only ever work.
Right?
You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
What do you mean I'm lazy? And that's what I've been thinking about a lot. Like, where I allow societal expectations to become my expectations. And how unfair that is to me.
They seep in so
quickly, especially when you're Black and queer and trans and any kind of divergent that exists in this world. Like, it's really hard to hold on to the fact that success is you being happy and content.
Yeah.
And whatever that looks like for you, nobody can take that away from you.
Yeah. I really appreciate the way you speak on this because for me, at least, and I know a lot of people deal with depression. Like I don't hesitate to talk about my my battles with depression or like being diagnosed with mixed anxiety and depressive mood.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that sometimes with depression, it's hard for me to enjoy things that make me happy in general. Like I'm just like I don't know what happiness is sometimes, and those moments, it's not even like it's seeping in like other people's expectations. It's just like a flooding over me, and I can't help but to be like, okay, like I just feel like I just have to pick something. Damn, because like I just don't know. I feel so clueless sometimes, but just that continuous reminder to be like, no, just waking up in the morning. Go me, you know? Like,
no, that's so important.
I love the way you speak about this because that's just so helpful to me, like, moving forward, just thinking about it now.
Now, I'm going to be honest with y'all viewers. I'm not saying I'm doing a good job at it, but I'm trying. You know what I mean?
That's all you can do. It's a journey.
It is a pursuit. And in relationship to that, especially on the depression and anxiety front and the figuring out or learning what knowing happiness means to you. I think I'm a person who spent a lot of my life from a perspective of processing and not experiencing. And I think I've depended a lot on understanding things versus experiencing them. Mm-hmm. And I think that is like this transition to me learning
how to... Sounds very Pisces too.
Yeah. This transition into learning how to be content and to find success and just getting through the day is also coming from a place of me challenging myself to experience things without feeling the need to process or understand them. If I can experience happiness without registering why I'm experiencing it or what it is or where it's coming from, that to me feels like something that is impactful. And it's hard. Like, I'm not saying I am by any means well versed at this, but it is the transition always transitioning, good Lord. It is the transition I'm trying to make now in my life of learning how to experience things rather than try to fight to understand them. It's hard.
It is hard.
But I think it'll make me much happier.
I love that. Now, you have some questions for me.
Oh, my God, I do. I'm so excited. I've been so excited to ask you these questions because I feel like me and you are always on the same wave about a lot of these things, and a lot of our questions overlap.
Oh, we have great conversations.
Every time. Y'all just, this is another conversation for me and Josca.
This is a privilege. Right?
Welcome in.
They don't even know this is a privilege.
They
have some conversations that I just leave there like, dang.
Same. Like, that's why I love talking to you often. You remind me that I'm right where I'm supposed to be all the time, and I really appreciate you for that.
I appreciate you for that, for real.
Yeah. A Pisces and a Cancer.
I know.
What do you mean you've been listening this whole time and you haven't subscribed yet? I don't see what the holdup is. The button is right there. And while you're at it, follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You obviously like the show.
But we'll start nice and easy. But my first question is, what does chasing your dreams look like to you specifically?
Ooh, chasing my dreams. So right now it definitely looks like just kind of what we were talking about earlier, following my instincts and also just not giving up when there's a big learning curve. I'm going to be specific about that because that's what I've started to notice in the past 3 months, when I've had something that I've, like an idea just pop up and I'm like, oh, I got to do this now. And then something that I just did not foresee happening so not just learning curve. Learning curve is a big one, but also when I realized that I have a lack of resources that I didn't know I was supposed to need. Like for this podcast, this podcast, the idea kept getting grander and grander and grander, and I had to figure out ways where I could like match it to the resources I had access to a little bit more. And I'm just like, okay, well, how could I get a little bit of help with some of the stuff I want? Like when Dante suggested like a camcorder, I'm like, okay, how can I do that and like not really spend a lot of money, because I really want to podcast. I feel like it's one of the best entry points for me right now, because I love having conversations and I love writing. So I was like, okay, I want to do this, and I think this is something that's very manageable for me right now with the resources I do have. I also came up against a learning curve with this, and I'm just like, okay, this is a lot to organize, and I need to figure out a better system. Like, I need to figure out how to, like, I got a microphone, and I said, we're literally, this is where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
I can't use this microphone right now because I'm missing, first of all, I was missing a mixer that I needed to go get, and then second of all, I'm just like, we're gonna keep this in kind of like in the realm of the feel of the, past, because me, obsessed with the past, obsessed with how I felt in the past. I'm like, keep it in that type of realm, and then just be okay with having that, not having the microphone as I wanted it, as I thought it should be, because that's literally what it was. Like, I'm like, oh, it's a podcast, I have to have it like this. And also I'm just like, okay, I'm not to say I'm not going to learn how to use that mic or whatever, but I'm just not giving up when I hit that type of learning curve or that type of like pit stop where I'm just like, okay, I need to evaluate this because it's kind of something that I didn't foresee, not being able to like figure it out as easily as I thought I was going to be able to figure that out.
Yeah.
And so chasing my dreams for me just means just like confronting those moments and taking a step to pause and be like, okay, is there a way I can sit with this for longer? Which is why I think it's really imperative to sit with things and like work on things for an extended period of time. Like, don't feel like you have to rush your dreams. Don't feel like you have to rush your goals or rush your passions. Like, sometimes I do that. Like, sometimes I was like, I want to get this thing made. I want to make this so bad. Like, I was literally crying in my room a couple months ago because I was just like, I haven't been in anything in a long time. Like, I haven't been. I was just like, I want to make this short film so bad.
Yes,
like, that was my thing. I was just like, there was a while there where I wasn't planning necessarily to be in anything, obviously, because I wasn't auditioning for anything. So I wasn't putting that intention out there anyway. And I wasn't putting myself out there where people can see and remember what I could do. So that was another thing. Like, when you're not doing that, obviously you're not going to be you're not going to be performing in other people's projects if you're not auditioning or if they're not seeing you or that. So I was like, I had my focus somewhere else at one point. Then I got to a point where it's like, okay, I'm going to stop working this job and I want to focus on the my creative aspirations. And yeah, sometimes I just had the idea that shifting my intention was going to be enough in my head, at least for a little while. And I'm like, no, there's a lot of action that I think will benefit me too. And the universe kind of shows you a lot of the time, like, what is probably needed.
I agree.
And not just like me, like following my dreams as I'm following what I want to be doing or what I am aspiring to, but also I would have certain dreams that would directly lead me to realize, oh, I'm supposed to be like kind of the creator of my own destiny, like in terms of I create something and things kind of attract to me. Like, I put this podcast out there, for example, and it allows me to be introduced to a whole new community of beautiful people who are my future collaborators, and it's not me just like trying to pick off of people no, I really love when there's a mutual relationship that we can build, and just like, not even just like a working relationship, but hell, I like meeting people, and I want more friends.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna sit here in front like I don't want to meet new people to have more friendships too. But yeah, so I just have to. It really all goes back to following the instincts, not being afraid of that learning curve, and just taking your time. Don't rush. Take time.
Speaking of taking time, it was a good segue to question number 2.
Okay.
Have your childhood dreams shifted? And if so, why do you think that is?
Yes. You know what's funny? I remember, like, I had so many different childhood dreams. I was writing a lot, so I thought I was going to be, like, just like an author. Like, I'm going to write novels, and that's it. Even though I still want to write a novel.
Give us a novel, Josca.
It's in the cards, because I'm still...
I'll read, increase the literacy rate.
Yeah. I thought I was just going to be at my house, like, crunched over a computer in, like, my little, like, wiry glasses. Like, all my, all throughout my years.
I do see that for you still. One day in this lifetime.
Yeah, I'm sure. I still love writing. It shifted. I guess it's just expanded a lot more. And also, I just had so many ideas as a kid. Like, I didn't know what anything was. Yeah. Like, I was just like, I had a brother who was talking about being a doctor all the time. And I'm just like, that actually sounds really cool. Like, being a doctor. And then I literally, when I was little, I had no sense of money. Like, what was a lot of money and what was a little bit of money. Really, I was just like, I'm going to be a lawyer because they make $50 a day. And that's literally, like, not what they make because that's not a lot of money. But I was like, I thought it was a lot of money when I was a kid. I remember I was at a sleepover and we were talking about what we wanted to be when we were growing up. I said, you guys, get this. Lawyers make $50 a day. That's going to be my job. They're like, oh my God.
Wealth.
So, right, literally, wealth. But, so I just had no concept of what, the priority was either because I didn't know, I wasn't thinking about what lawyers did with that example. Like, I was just thinking about the $50. Like, I'm like, that's a lot of peanut butter jelly sandwiches,
Uncrustable.
Right. Uncrustable. Yeah, so, like, when I was a kid, I just had a lot of, I think something that really stood the test of time, which I was thinking about the other day, I was like, that's actually really cool. That something I thought of when I was a kid, I actually ended up liking, and that was casting. Like, when I was a kid, I was just like, I want to pick the people who do the things, like, and then that thought kind of returned to me when I was in high school, and we had to choreograph dances and stuff like that, and you had to choose which of your classmates were going to be in the dance that you were choreographing. I was like, I love having a vision and, like, saying, ooh, this person fits nicely into this vision. This person fits nicely with this person. Like, the chemistry works well. And I really love doing that. And also, I love giving the news to people that they book something. Like, that's just like, right, I'm saying, you already know because right, you already know because I was so excited to share that news with you when I had the pleasure of helping to cast you in a movie.
My first major film, oh my God, and my sister Josca got me in there. No, seriously, I will forever love you. I always forever loved you before, but watching you, one of my favorite things about you is you have an innate understanding of that, of seeing people and recognizing places where they could grow and flourish, and that is a talent. That is a talent. And to hear that was something that you've been interested in since your childhood is so crazy because it's such an innate skill to you. Always has been. Like, you just...
I feel that. Like, it's literally been brought to my awareness the past probably, like, year or two. But I was just like, wow, I remember coming home from school one day and telling my dad, I want to be a casting director. And he was like, that sounds pretty cool. And I was just like, yeah, it really does. I'm like, and it's been a struggle, right? Because I love performing, and I've been in a lot of spaces when I was working in casting where it was like, you can't do both, so go ahead and pick one. Yeah. And the reason why I jumped ship with casting, I loved my job. I hope they don't think that I didn't love the job, but
Josca loved the job.
I loved the job. I loved casting. I love casting Broadway shows. I'm just like, dang, like, I was expressing it to them, but I'm like, I really hope they didn't think that I was leaving because I didn't love it. But I told them I wanted to go back and start acting again because it was really feeling like I was getting sucked in. Like, this is casting is a career. It takes up your time. Like, it's a full-time job, so it's going to take up your time. And I'm just sitting here like, how am I going to be able to create my own work and do all that? I had to really, like, develop myself and spend time with that because, like, when else will I have the time? And I felt like the age I am and the age I was when I quit. I'm like, I was having a lot of fun in that job.
We paused it.
Right.
And quit it.
We paused it.
Exactly. You'll press play again one day.
Right. We'll press play. Literally, I might press play in a couple months if I can figure out that balance. Yeah. I'm just like, it was so fun, like, especially doing it here in New York. Like,
Yeah.
I felt like I was privy also to things that were always going on around me that I never was tapped into before. I'm like, oh, people are always auditioning in Pearl. Like, people are always up in here just, like, doing stuff all the time. And, like, also seeing these actors, like... Man, I love actors. And this is why I think it's good to be in casting if you're an actor, too.
Yeah.
Because I would be in there, like, listening to the notes when the actors would leave the room, listening to the notes that the casting director or the director and the writers would, like, talk about and give. And I would go to the little holding room to get the actors and be like, next people up. Also, you guys, you want to make sure you keep these things in mind because this is kind of what they're looking for.
I can attest.
Wink.
That's how I booked the job. Thank you, Josca.
Right. Because I'm just like, why not? I learned in my casting training, because I did a little casting training program with Broadway for Racial Justice.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that was great. And what I learned was, like, we're here to help actors. We're not here to be a barrier for them.
Right.
We want to find the one person or multiple people to do a role, but that doesn't mean, like, we're out to sabotage. We need to help you because whoever it is, like, we want you to have the best platform to be able to give your all and that type of thing. So I noticed some casting directors falling short of that philosophy sometimes, and I'm like, that's something that I really appreciate as a performer myself. And I'm going to adhere to that. And that's going to be my philosophy moving forward. So, yeah, if the director is clear about what they want, I'm going to tell you, like, make sure you, like, record your self-tape from this perspective a little bit because that's how the scene is going to be filmed. And it might be really, really cool for us to see you kind of like film it in the way the scene is going to be filmed.
Yeah.
It might give the director a little bit more of a direct entryway into envisioning you in this role. So I'm like, why wouldn't I say that? Like, why wouldn't I say
help the
that?
girls. Help
right,
the girls.
I help the girls. I'm just like,
please. I think there's something so beautiful about a dream or a skill that is so innate to you in your childhood, transmuting with you throughout time, and just taking shape in life with you as you continue to take shape in life. So, like, to know that was, like, a childhood interest for you that has lasted to now, it's so beautiful. It is. Which also leads me to my final question. Why do you think people stop chasing or give up on chasing their dreams? You brought up something earlier that I would like to tackle and when you finish answering, because I think you brought up something really beautiful in relationship to this question. But yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, I think what I'm thinking of that I also brought up earlier, I don't know if this is what you're thinking of, but a couple of things, like, I think for me in the past, a lack of resources
That's
has...
exactly what I was
I
thinking
knew
of.
it. I'm like, this might be what you're thinking
exactly
of.
what I was thinking of.
But yes, a lack of resources has time and time again made me, like, just give up on certain things. And I'm like, I'll return to this when I can afford this, or when I can do, or what have you. But sometimes I'm like, okay, I could be a little bit more creative with what I have, or I could be a little bit more creative on how I access, not just what I have already on hand.
Preach.
So, excuse me, like with the lighting equipment and like with this camcorder, for example, like it ain't nothing but a thing to like be like, family members, I'm doing a project. Would you like to donate like $100? Like some people will just like give you $100 for just because they believe in you and they want to see what you're doing and they're excited for you and all that stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, like just kind of make it work where you can. Or even if you can't do that, sometimes I'm just like, put out a shout out, like, does anybody have access to this thing? Or does anybody know somebody who still goes to this school where I could swipe their card and get it? Or literally, like, I'm sitting here like, I can still get into my old apartment building. Like, I'm sitting here like, there's a lot of ways to be, right? I'm like, there's a lot of ways to be creative and, like, get space, or, like, I don't know, like, the library. Oh, my goodness. Dante and everybody who has told me about the use of these rooms that you can book at the library. I'm just like, oh, they don't got it like this in Georgia. They have rooms that you can reserve at the library, but it's not as ample. There's not as many opportunities. So I'm just like being creative with resources a lot more than I was doing before. Because I thought I was doing something. You know how sometimes you think you're doing something?
I do.
Like, I do. Like, I think I'm onto something. Yeah. But I just have learned, especially with this endeavor, that I could just be a lot more adventurous with how I gain access to certain resources. Because there are always going to be time. Like, I'm no rich person. I'm no rich girl. So there's always going to be something that I could have or that I wish I had, but that doesn't mean this can't work, or that doesn't mean whatever it is can't work. So, but I think that is something that a lot of people, a place where a lot of people, especially our age, are at. Even though we're resourceful, we are really resourceful, but sometimes we have really, really grand dreams at the moment, and it's... like on the panel we were at the other day, it's something that haunts us, and we want to do it so bad. Like, it gets painful when it's like, feels like we can't do something that we really want to do because of something we don't have. And I'm just like, yeah, I totally get that. And it's just like, okay, how can I make this into something where I can do that still in some type of way? Or how can I build myself up to be able to get to do that, where I can I can give it what I think it deserves. So yeah, I'm just learning a lot more ways to be creative nowadays, as you see.
No, I'm very guilty of that, and you bringing that up definitely really resonated and touched me in the sense of learning how to scale your dreams to the resources that you do have at your disposal versus only committing to the grand version of it. Because I'm very much a person where it's like, if I can't have it the way I imagined it, I don't want it. And I'm trying to learn how to take that energy and to show and surprise myself in ways. Surprise myself in the sense of, what are the creative ways in which I can manifest what I want on the way to the grand version of it? And that's a really scary thing for me because I'm stubborn and spoiled. But also, there's something really beautiful about teaching yourself about your edges and like pushing beyond what you thought was a boundary for yourself or a hard line, especially in relationship to a dream, and like learning that you can make things tangible in ways that you couldn't even imagine.
Yeah. Which
is also very scary, to trust yourself as a person who's creative enough to manifest the things that they want, even when it doesn't directly align to your specific vision.
Yeah.
Not so scary.
It is.
That's the reason why I've considered giving up on a lot of my dreams, of just feeling like I don't have the resources, or I don't have the capacity, I don't have the space, because I'm only ever imagining the grand version of it. And I think that's really beautiful. Cancer and Pisces, we gonna imagine until the day is done. Trust me.
Until the day is done.
Trust me. But also learning that you can take that imagination, that dream, and you can make it tangible. It may not be the exact full-scale version, but you can take something from that full-scale version and give it to yourself. And I'm trying to learn how to trust that now.
Yeah.
In relationship to the grand thing.
It's important. I had another thing come to mind with why people give up on their dreams sometimes, and definitely another reason why I have thrown stuff to the side is because of a lack of collaborators that connect well with what you want to be doing.
Yes.
Like whatever it is. Community is a big one for me. It's been a big one. I've always been dreaming of that collaborator who gets what I'm trying to do, and not only gets it, but it has a similar passion statement, like has a similar goal of, oh, this is like my vibe, this is my genre, this is the kind of stories I want to tell. And, I'm still on that journey of finding like people who kind of fit that, or people who I don't have to like convince them. I don't have to keep trying to get them excited. They're already excited. They came to me excited because, and this is why I want to do this too, because the more you talk about it and the more people can hear it, the more clear you are with what the vision is. Me doing comedy, loving being wacky and campy and just telling joyful.
You are funny.
Yeah.
You are funny.
Being witty a little bit and just telling stories about surrounding and demystifying mental health, especially as someone working through anxiety at all times, and making it in a way where there's a lot of different perspectives. And a lot of times it's through the realm of somebody who just happens to be funny. And, like, they're not somebody you're just like,
Exactly.
They can have layers. I think a lot of Christina Yang in Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
Sandra Oh is on my vision board.
I love Sandra Oh.
She's amazing. And when I watched Grey's Anatomy, I was like, that's it. That's it.
That's the thing.
Because her personality, like that little humor that she has, but she's also like a very serious person. I'm like, that's kind of a version of me sometimes in my head. Not always like outwardly, but that's a version of me in my head when I'm not just like the silly person who's like trying to make people laugh, but when I'm just like being me and then I happen to be funny sometimes. I'm just like, humor just comes out in a lot of different ways. But anyway, that was me trying to tell the listeners in my audience, for those who can connect with that, like, whoop, sorry about that. We had a little technical snafu. We'll be back right after this.
Something that's very inspiring to me is literally knowing a year and like 2 months ago, this was a conversation we were having in a car in Atlanta, leaving set in the middle of the night, and to just watch you like so very seamlessly. I'm not about to sit here and act like it was easy. Like, pursuing your dreams are difficult, but to watch you push past that difficult aspect of it and to just do this, like, not only am I proud of you, but I'm so deeply inspired by you, and I always have been, like, very, very truly. From the first moment I met you, girl, you used to intimidate the hell out of me, because I was like, that's a person who knows what they want and they know how they're going to get it. And obviously we're friends, so like I've watched that journey happen for you, but something that's been very consistent about you since I've known you is just your tenacity and your commitment to getting the things that you want, even when it doesn't seem easy or clear or linear. And yeah, you deeply inspire me.
I love that word.
I do too.
I remember
coming to the stage. Welcome, tenacity.
Welcome, tenacity. Is it filming? Okay. I remember the first time somebody called me tenacious. It was in dance class.
I love that. It was like dance class.
Yes, it was a dance class, and I was like, what does that mean? Like, I was just like,
you said, what is her?
Yeah, I was like, what is that?
New dance term?
Right, literally. Tenacity. Yeah, like, what does that mean? No, I used to be on that vocabulary grind, and I used to have teachers tell me to do stuff, like, especially in high school, because I had a very interesting high school class. I will never forget the time I had being a senior in high school, but thankfully,
2016, right. We had a time last
It was a time. It was a time.
That's exactly what that year gave.
It was a time. It was kind of like just that thing where you just had to kind of like get it through it, like like do it, and it's just like people were doing whatever, and I was just kind of like, okay, I wanna get to the next. I'm ready to get to the next. Like I would have gladly left early if I could.
No, I get that. And like, I know it hasn't been easy for either one of us, but both of us continue to push past those moments. That's success to me, actually.
Yeah, it is.
Seriously. Like, the fact that through it all, me and you have not given up on ourselves. And it's not to say I haven't wanted to now, because listen, there's been many a time where I wanted to throw in the towel, and I'm sure I will experience that many more times too. But I think about people like you. I think about people like Dante. I think about a lot of our friends in our community and the people that I see pushing past just the hardest parts of growing up, of transitioning from your younger 20s to your mid-20s, soon to be late 20s and early 30s, and just through it all, trusting that you're going to end up where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, 30s. That's going to be a whole new podcast.
I cannot wait to be 30. Viewers, oh my gosh, if you're over 30, please also send me advice and check in and let me know what I should know. But I do think in my 30s I'm going to thrive.
My brother just turned 30, and I'm just like, oh, how does it feel? Just let me know all the tea, because I'm going to blink, and I'm going to be there.
Yeah, the fact that it's been 7 years since we've arrived to the institution we're currently sitting in.
7 years.
Well, you started across the pond and then came.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's been 7 years, babe.
Wow, 7 years. It has been
It's been 7 years. Isn't that crazy?
It does feel, me thinking about being across the pond does feel like quite a long time ago. But
yeah, freshman year feels like ages ago.
Yeah, but maybe I'm thinking like third year. Third year doesn't feel as long ago as like 5 years. I'm like,
third year feels closer than fourth year to me. So fourth year is on its own little blinked out off the timeline kind of journey.
So true to me
that was a portal in a pocket of time that does not fit on my timeline.
A portal in a pocket. Dante's like, yeah, I think so too. What do you think?
Down. It's crazy. But here we are.
Crazy, and we did it. We are.
But to think about how much we've done, Jessica, like that's why I'm trying to slow down, because when I think about 18 to 25 and the sheer amount of work that has went into that time period of my life, I'm like, girl, you can't keep working like this.
Yeah.
It's just not sustainable. Like, it's not sustainable. And it was in the time where I was in my young 20s and had the energy and the, like, vibrancy in my life to do it in that way. But I'm starting to transition to a point where it's like, I'm not going to kill myself trying to be accomplished and successful.
Yeah. I was just saying earlier, y'all can keep this little structure of, I'm going to work for 40 years and then I'm or 40, 50 years and then I'm retiring. And that's the only time I'm going to take like a real break
to
like
enjoy
that.
my life.
I said, oh no, we're going to be working 2-year break.
But that's also the crazy
1-year
thing.
break.
I don't know a lot of people who have taken that path and are genuinely happy in their later years. I can't point to a lot of people, particularly in my life, where I'm like, okay, you worked at that job for 40 years, you retired, you got your pension, and you're happy, and you're just enjoying yourself and living your life. I don't have examples of that. Yeah. And because I don't have examples of that, it's like I need to find that well before I feel like I've worked hard enough to get it.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, I do. I'm like, let's be our own examples at this point. Because I like resting.
You hear that, viewers? Be your own example. That was good.
I mean, what else I got to do at this point? I'm like, I got to do it. I got to be it. Okay, let's go ahead and play this last game.
Oh, this is what I'm so excited for.
Yes, because we've been mentioning Pisces, Cancers, Virgos, like all throughout this podcast.
Girlies.
Astrological girls. So it's only fitting, and especially because the strike is over. I mean, hello. Even though
the strike is over.
We can talk about what's going on with this deal. How everybody's like, I'm voting no. But anyway,
I'm not gonna say I don't disagree. I would be voting yes, but I don't disagree with why people are voting no.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's like, especially at this point in time, this is a very crucial document. This is a very crucial contract with new things that we've never seen in the industry before this point in time. Like, the last time they were negotiating during a strike, 2008, around that time, like, there was no, like, big streaming.
Nope.
The Giants did not have a monopoly on, like, production. You know, like, Netflix wasn't making Hulu originals, like Disney, you know.
To think about the project that me and you are working on, for example, where we necessarily aren't access to royalties because of streaming services now. Yeah. That's crazy. Like, it's really crazy to think about how much of the industry has shifted away from supporting actors, period.
And all I'm going to say is, I know the movie that we worked on is going to go viral. It had a very specific fan base. And I already know.
Tune in and hear it now. Listen, I have to give you this tea. I'll be on Twitter every night looking at the hashtag of said project that y'all will find out about. Just getting the tea of how people are feeling, and people are already talking.
Yeah,
people are so excited, which is deeply exciting and intimidating, but also deeply honored to be a part of something that carries so much of an impact.
Yeah.
You know, and more than anything, I'm really grateful for that. Yeah. So thank you. It wouldn't happen without Josca for me, y'all, okay? So Josca supremacy until the day I die.
And at first I was really we're going to get back to the game in a second, by the way. But you know how I was really nervous before when I first contacted you about the role, because I was like, I'm going to upend your whole life for like a month.
Please do it again. Expeditiously, if you can.
I said, I'm going to give her a shout, but I don't know if it's going to...
Please do it again. And you know what's so crazy about that, Josca? That happened at a time in my life a year ago where I was in the depths of not feeling like I had anything to hold on to in terms of feeling accomplished, in terms of feeling successful, in terms of feeling like I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And it was really hard. So, like, when you sent me all the info and, like, the auditioning was happening, I literally prayed the night before my final callback, and I was like, please do not let me be this close if it's not for me, because I can't handle it. Yeah. I would not be able to handle. I was just at a place in my life where it's like I couldn't handle that rejection. And let me tell you something about a low point, viewers. Let me let God use me for a second. When you are in your darkest hour,
hey,
God will step in and shine a light that you never thought you would get to see.
Hey, what does my shirt say? Got your ticket?
And Josca gave me mine, right on to glory. Seriously. And I was just so grateful for God. I am very spiritual. For God, for my ancestors, and particularly for you to be positioned to pull me out of a place where I didn't feel worthy. And I think I will forever be so unspeakably grateful for your contribution to that, because it was a really low moment for me, and then that pulled me out so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to cry.
I'm about to cry.
But thank you. Seriously, like...
No, of course. I feel like we definitely... Not that it was selfish, but I definitely needed... I definitely was excited that you could be... honestly, this is a very real thing, because when you were there, besides the times that we were like kikiing, interacting, hanging out, all that stuff, I would just observe you and be so inspired of how you carried yourself on set. I was just like, I have to be more like that. Like, I have to connect with people like that more, because a lot of these people are doing really cool things, and a lot of these people are just really cool people to get to know. Or like, why wouldn't you talk to people anyway? They're there, and it's like, this is your community now, this is the family while you're filming. And I don't know, just the ease in which, from my perspective anyway, in which you carried yourself, and like always said hi, always spoke to people with kindness, and not that I was ever mean to anybody, but I'm just like, sometimes my view of like imposter syndrome kind of, I let it take hold sometimes, and I'm just like, I have to just go in the bathroom and kind of breathe it out. Yeah. Sometimes I would shed a few tears. I'm just like, no, I can be here. And because sometimes I'm like, what if I don't know what anybody's talking about, and all this type of thing. But,
and remembering that your presence is impacting people that you do not realize, babe, like you being in that space alone is the biggest, if not the most, like, contributing aspect to my comfort in that space. And the ease that you're speaking of in terms of watching me operate in that space was much to do with knowing that you were there. Seriously, and knowing that in this space where I don't necessarily know anyone, there is one person in my corner in here that I don't have to question, and that just gave me the freedom to kind of like release into the experience, which I love. It's actually crazy. I love our cast, obviously. Y'all find out all the tea when it's time. But what is crazy to me is the people that I've heard from and continue to hear from consistently since that is our crew. Mm-hmm. Like, people still reach out to me. We still be on Instagram, DMing, and kiki, and I think that is so cute. Like, I just be like, oh my God, like, I love that.
That was a fun crew.
It was.
And a lot of people younger, a lot of people around that age crew.
Yeah.
I was like, this is fun. And very Black and Tea.
Mark it now, viewers. When it comes, you're going to get.
Right. I'm so excited. Okay, let's get back to the game.
Yeah.
We could talk for hours, but we're going to play a little game called Old TV Big 3. So if you have your TV show for us, you can give us some characters and tell us based off these characters who's your sun, who's your moon, and who's your rising.
Obviously a SpongeBob, duh.
Yes. Full
circle. No, I've been thinking a lot about this question. It was a really hard one to answer. There are so many characters, but I do have my list, and I'm going to give it to you. I'll give it to you, and then we can talk about it, because I want to see if you agree.
Okay.
I do think I'm a SpongeBob son, right? But the rising... and the rising gets the girls is Sandy Cheeks. Because you meet me and you're like, duh. But then you meet me and you're like, oh, duh. And then the moon is Gary.
Gary?
I'm a Gary Moon. Down, bitch. All I want to do is slug around my house and eat. Don't play with me. Also,
Slug around my house and eat.
just thinking about Gary as a person in terms of like...
As a person, it's killing me.
Gary the snail, she's a human in my brain. Having a shell where you can retreat into yourself to process is why I think I'm a Gary Moon, because when I process my emotions, it's all about me being able to retreat inward. Not everybody's like that. Like, a lot of people do need external processing for their emotions. I love that. I'm not. Put me in my shell. Let me sit in my little house in my shell. I think I'm a Sandy Rising, because I think when you first meet me, it is a little like she knows what's going on. Like, she got it. She has herself together. There's some couth about herself. Like, you can feel that she may not be in the environment she's meant to be in, but she's comfortable there.
And adventurous about it.
And curious. And, like, there's just this, like, hey, what's up? I'm Sandy Cheeks. And then you meet me and you're like, oh no, that bitch is batshit crazy. Which is why I'm the Spongebob son, because after you remove that Sandy Cheeks layer, behind it is me of the episode where they're doing the Super Bowl stadium and SpongeBob is like,
yeah.
That's me at my core.
That's
no
iconic.
Shade. And just SpongeBob's optimism and youth and naivety in particular, and just that sense of like, through it all, I can find joy, even in my most, like, low moments. Yeah, girl. SpongeBob son, Sandy Rising, Gary Moon.
I like that. I think I agree. Like, especially from your descriptions, I'm like, that tracks.
Do you agree, Dante?
I agree.
What would yours
Dante
be?
didn't even really watch SpongeBob, but you know,
fair.
It doesn't matter. I know the characters.
Who would you do off the cuff for you?
For SpongeBob? I'm glad you asked.
Because I want to know.
Let's see. I think I would also be a SpongeBob son, to be honest.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
SpongeBob son, and I specifically think about him carrying the pizza box through the sandstorm.
That is my favorite SpongeBob episode of all time.
That's the kind of tenacity.
Exactly.
That's the
I love a full circle.
Right? We love full circles. That's how. That's my thoughts in my head when I'm writing something. I'm like, what can come full circle? Like, what can come full circle? But anyway, SpongeBob son. Let's see. Rising is what I'm trying to really think about. Sometimes it's giving Mr. Krabs, but I feel like it's not in like that cheapskate money, like that type of
just
way.
About your business.
Right. It's kind of like, because I feel like Mr. Krabs is a Capricorn, and I'm a Capricorn rising.
No, it makes sense for you.
Like, I'm feeling like that's probably what it is.
That feels right. Just running the business, you know what I mean? I would agree, not in the cheapskate sense of like money, but like about the business.
Right, about the business. Like, and he's not letting anybody get their hands on the Krabby Patty formula. And I'm just like, I want to figure my stuff out, because also my formulas be changing, be shifting all the time, especially when it comes to reaching my dreams and stuff like that, and being ambitious, which I feel like is a big highlight of the Capricorn sign. But yeah, I'm like, I think it's probably Mr. Krabs rising for that reason. And Moon, I feel like I'm going to say Squidward. And you know what?
Yep. I was going to say that
because now...
But not the mean part.
Not the mean part. I'm thinking about the part where you get to see the layers of him.
Yes.
When he's like sad because nobody likes him, nobody wants to hear him play the trumpet. Like when he just feels like he's... Sometimes to me... Like, I can't... No, he doesn't have... He's an only child, right? I'm pretty sure Squidward is only child. But sometimes he gives middle sibling vibes. Yeah. Middle child vibes. And that's me. I'm the middle child of 5 in total. So, right there, smack dab in the middle with 2 above and 2 below. And I feel like he gives that energy a lot of the time.
Just wanting to be in yourself with your creativity.
Yeah, and he's so melodramatic. And I feel like I can get there. Definitely. Without a problem. So yeah.
Down.
You look like you agree.
I mean, because same. That's the problem. But that's also what makes us good actresses. So
yeah, I totally agree. And with that, I don't want to end this. I'm like, I'm trying to find a way to stall, but definitely we're gonna have some extra time to spend together, and I would definitely love to collaborate on anything and everything again.
And will.
And period, because we're creating this stuff.
And we're young. Look at what we're doing.
We're gonna look so young on here.
I love it.
When I looked at that little test footage, I said, we're gonna look back on this in 15 years and be like, oh.
I was going through the stills from said project. I look like a child.
Yeah.
They ate that.
They ate that. They ate that age down. They said
ate that up.
They said we're gonna age down a little bit, and yeah.
Did.
Oh, you look so cute all the time. I was just like, this is adorable. I can't wait. I can't wait to see it. But okay. Thank you everyone for watching 23, 24, 25. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And please come back next week to see what we have in store. I'm going to say this all the time, but it's true, y'all, because these conversations are giving. Okay. These conversations are really helping me out, so I know they're going to help others. And I know that we can keep talking forever, so they're just going to have to come see what we got in store. But yes, please join us, and we'll see you soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.
23, 24, 25 is a podcast produced and hosted by Josca. Graphic design by Josca. Executive producer, director of photography, and editor, Dante Charles Critchlow. Music by Fadal Moore. A special thanks to Anthony and Celintia Moore, Constance Moore, and Harold Hickson for their contributions to production. And a special thanks to viewers like you who create the community of my wildest dreams. Thank you.
23, 24, 25 TV.